Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are doing part 2 of how to grow grass. If you haven't watched part 1, go ahead and watch that. That gives some background on like what seeds we're going to be using, fertilizer, weeds, all that kind of good stuff. Today we're actually going to be planting the seeds in the lawn, and we'll just kind of walk through the steps of what you'll need to do for your lawn. So a good thing to keep in mind when planting your seeds is you're going to want to look at the weather. Once you put them down, they got to stay moist. So it's good if you can find a stretch of weather that's going to be rainy. This will keep the seeds moist while they germinate. So if you can't do that, you're just gonna have to get out there and water, which is totally fine too, but obviously that's kind of annoying. So yeah, just kind of look at the weather, see if you can hit it with some rain, plant them right before some rain, and then you'll be good to go. So the first thing we need to do is mow our existing grass. We want to get it as short as possible, so go ahead and stick your mower on your lowest setting. It's okay if it kind of is shorter than you would typically mow. For this case scenario, when we're planting new seeds, we're gonna wanna mow it really tight so that we can just let that old grass grow in and the new grass grow in at the same kind of, try to get it at the same time. There's gonna be it's gonna be wonky for a while until everything grows in. You can mow it all at the same height. But just so you know, mow at the lowest setting for this first mow, then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we just mowed the lawn at the lowest setting, so it's looking actually pretty good. Now you'll probably be able to see kind of better where your problem spots are and where you need to like kind of focus. So the next step's really going to be to make sure those areas are clear. Sometimes the grass, like when there's an open area, will kind of bend over and grow sideways, and we just want to make sure that's not happening. If so, cut that, and a lot of that's going to have to be done by hand. So once we get the grass seed planted and thickened up, the grass won't naturally kind of bend over and flop over and grow into there. So that's kind of why we're doing this, so that we don't have those pockets of empty dirt, so that the grass can't really grow sideways. So next step, I would grab like a gardening rake and just kind of start loosening up the soil. We're gonna want the seeds to kind of go onto something that's loose and not compact. So start loosening up the soil. Don't worry too much about like herning your lawn. I mean, obviously don't rip it out, but like I wouldn't be too gentle on it, just because we're gonna give it a bunch of fertilizer, we're gonna put some dirt on it, it's gonna be happy, it's sunny, it's rainy, so I wouldn't worry too much. I think the grass will come back as long as you're not ripping it completely out of the ground. But yeah, we want to make sure those areas that are bare are open and don't have grass kind of going all in it. So that's what we're gonna do next. Yeah, a lot of that's just gonna have to be done by hand because my mower couldn't grab those sections. So probably the same with you. So yeah, that's the next step. So as you can see, it's pulling up a lot of dead grass and dead material, which is actually really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that to the whole lawn, and then obviously pick this up. I might go ahead and remow after this, just to get the tall grasses that were kind of flopped over. But yeah, this isn't necessarily bad. This will be good. When we overseed, it'll help the seeds kind of get onto some dirt, which will be great. And yeah, we'll go from there. So your lawn might be different, but in this case, it looks like I have a lot of, I think this is what they call thatch, which is just kind of dead material that's built up. You might have the same thing. There's like a power tool called a dethatcher that you can get. And so if you wanted to take the next step, or you had a large yard, that might be the next thing you might want to consider. In this case, we're just gonna do it by hand and then mow again, and then make sure like these areas right here are clear. As you can see, some of these grasses kind of flopping over. So we'll make sure all that stuff is clear before we overseed. All right, so I just mowed again, picked up all the thatch from the yard, mowed all the other grass down to the same height. So right now, your yard should be looking as bad as it really ever should. So don't worry, this is normal. It's gonna look really bad when you're repairing it. But obviously, the hope is that we can grow this in nice and thick and green. So yeah, the next step I'm gonna be doing is just loosening that dirt, cutting out any weeds that I see, and making sure that, yeah, pulling out any grass. You know, maybe there's some crabgrass in there that I wanna get rid of. Pulling any of that out at this point, this is the time to do it. So anything that you want to pull out, do that now. And while you're going around, loosen up that dirt so that we can kind of mix some of the good soil that we have into it, and then we should be good to seed. So let's get to it. If you've done it right, your yard will look really patchy like mine, as you can see. Pulled out a lot of the bad grass, pulled out the weeds, pulled out, you know, anything I didn't want. Next, we're gonna put new dirt, new compost on top of it, just to give the soil some more richness. So we'll spread that out. And the main thing here is we're just trying to level the ground out, fill in any holes that you have, and also make sure that the grass that's already there is sticking back out of the dirt. If it's underneath the dirt, obviously it can't get sunlight and it'll die. So you want the blades that are already there to be sticking out so they can get to the sun and stay alive. We're not trying to kill the whole lawn, so make sure those previous grass blades are sticking out after you spread the dirt. Okay, so here's what I have, compost and steer. I'm gonna mix these together so that I'll spread these two together mix. So I'm gonna mix it in a wheelbarrow and then spread these out. Okay, so I ran out of compost. I got it where I wanted to, still not level, so I'm gonna spread some of the peat moss I have out on the top. Peat moss, you can definitely put peat moss down as your first layer, but I just wanted to put compost down. So anyways, we're gonna level it off with peat moss and then we can plant our seeds. Okay, so we just spread all the dirt down on the ground. Main thing here is to get it leveled to the base of the existing grass. My yard was just super bumpy, so that's why it took more than I was expecting. But the main thing is just to level the dirt to the base of the existing grass. You don't want it to go above it because then your other grass is gonna start higher than the existing grass. You just want it to be all level and nice. So that's what I did, raked it in. So now we are ready to apply some fertilizer. So the main thing with the fertilizer is to check the rates of application. That'll have it on the bag, then make sure to not over apply it. So let's go take a look at that and I'll give you more information on what I'm using and then also the spreader settings that I'm gonna be using. Okay, so as I linked in the last video, I got this starter fertilizer, Landscaper Select. This was just from my local hardware store, so you can have something different. I know Scott's have some, I know all the major brands have some, so whatever you have is fine. So the stuff I got is a 1226. So again, the middle number meaning phosphorus, so that's gonna be high in phosphorus, which is what we want for new growth. So the main thing is to check out the back. There'll be some application rates. For sake of just making this as easy as possible, I have a Scott's spreader. So find a bag with a Scott's spreader setting and that'll be super easy to set it up. It'll just give you the number and you set your Scott's spreader to that and you go. So you won't have to do any math. Some bags will tell you how many pounds to put per 1,000 square feet. So it'll be like, put 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet. That gets a little trickier because then you have to do some testing, you have to measure your yard, all that good stuff. which is great if you want to get into that. But for sake of this is supposed to be an easy kind of how to plant an easy lawn, find something with the spreader settings that you have. It'll just make it super simple. You won't have to think about it. This bag says to broadcast it at 4.5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. And the Scott's Edge Guard setting says 5.5. So we'll set it to 5.5 and we won't have to do the math. So now we are ready to plant our seeds. So after you put your fertilizer down, you're ready to now seed your lawn. So again, read your bags. So this bag says 3 pounds for 1,000 square feet for overseeding. So that's if you have an existing lawn and you want to thicken it up, 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet. And then new lawns, it says 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So these are 3-pound bags. So these 3 pounds should, if you wanted to just overseed your lawn, will cover 1,000 square feet. I have two. I have the Sun and Shade and the Dense Shade. So we have some areas that need brand new seed, so that's gonna take a lot more seed, and then some areas that just need to be overseeded. So what I'll probably do is go around by hand and seed, just kind of overseed the lawn, all of it, and then go back and find the parts that were bare and add some more seeds to that area. So obviously your lawn that already has grass isn't going to need as many seeds as new bare ground would need. So obviously you're just going to have to kind of figure it out. The main thing here is you don't want too many seeds in one area. Sometimes you throw down a lot and they're on top of each other, they're overlapping. That's not going to be good. They can't really grow, they need their space. So too many seeds is actually a bad thing too. So try to cover it where it looks natural, but don't pile them up, I guess. We're gonna, again, overseed by hand, and then go back with the bare spots, seed those in. So my backyard is very shady, and that's what I'm showing you guys just for sake of time. So I'm gonna use the Dense Shade. Dense Shade on this brand needs about 4 hours of sun. I think with all the trees in the backyard, that is probably what that gets. The sun shade mix is only 5 hours, so it's not, there's not a big difference there, but I do think that our backyard is shadier than we think. It does get sun, but it doesn't get a lot because the trees block a lot of it. So that's what I'll be doing, and let's get at it. So just a quick side note on applying your seeds. You can use a spreader, that is totally fine. In my case, I just have so many garden beds. This year, I'm just gonna do it by hand because I just really wanna make sure that the seeds get in the right areas. If you have a nice, just plain square lawn or whatever, big open area, feel free to use a spreader. And that'll do fine. Just know that, you gotta be careful where it's spraying the seeds because they'll start to grow. So that's just a side note there, but let's get at it. So after you spread your seed, you're gonna wanna rake it in just to kind of mix it up and get any piles out of the way. And then we're gonna cover it with 1/8 of an inch of peat moss. Okay, so we have our seed down, it's raked in. Last thing we need to do is cover it with a very thin layer of peat moss. What you're gonna wanna do is put the peat moss in a wheelbarrow and then really break it up as finely as possible, and then just kind of dust it on by hand if you can. Obviously you can use a shovel that kind of like I was doing earlier, but that's gonna go on thicker probably than you want. I would say that this top layer you really just want to be kind of dusted on, and then we're gonna water it down to kind of soak it in and get it ready for growth. So then we'll be done for today. It's a lot of work, so be prepared if you're gonna do this. Just like, plan a day for it, be ready for it. Yeah, it's not easy, so but it'll be worth it when it all comes in. So now we're gonna water it in. You're supposed to water it in about 1 inch. I know that's kind of just like how do you know how much 1 inch is? Sometimes what they say to do is put a little like container out and then see how long it takes to water that to 1 inch, and then you'll know, okay, it took, you know, X amount of time. For me, I like doing it by hand. A lot of people just will turn on a sprinkler, and that's probably the easiest way to do it. We just don't have a sprinkler that works for this yard because it's really compartmentalized and there's corners and stuff that don't really work. So I do it by hand. I don't really care. For me, it's kind of soothing just to go out and water the lawn. So you do you, but that's what we're gonna do now. Another thing you want to keep in mind is you don't want your water to puddle. So you don't want your seeds to be sitting in a puddle of water. So make sure you're not watering too much. If your soil has bad like drainage, some of our soil does, you just got to like be aware of that and just know that you can't water that area quite as much, or you just got to wait for it to kind of drain before you kind of soak the seed in. So just be aware, you don't want your seed to be underwater, you just want it to be moist. So that's all we're looking for. Right now, the main thing is to, since we watered the seed in, to keep the seed wet. So right now it's 4:30. It should stay wet the rest of the day and into the night. And then tomorrow morning, I'm gonna want to rewater, and all your next waterings will really just be a really short kind of dusting of water. We don't need it to get really, really wet. We just want to keep the soil moist. And then obviously, like we did, we timed it with the weather. So the next week is supposed to be kind of rainy and cloudy so that the soil will stay moist. So anyways, we'll show you how this comes along. Depending on what kind of grass seed you get is obviously going to be different, but it should take about 7 to 14 days just till it germinates. So we'll keep you posted on when we see first signs of growth, and then we'll show you how to kind of maintain the new grass as it comes to life. So thanks for sticking along with us. I hope you guys are excited about your new lawn and getting it established. So we will see you guys next time in the final video, where you'll be able to see the grass coming in and the new lawn. So it'll be nice before and after, so make sure to subscribe.